So we just have one referral. It's gonna be really quick, but maybe we'll do that. Since we have to vote, maybe we'll do that or vote for chairperson and vice chair. Maybe do that first, so hopefully Tim's here by then.
Okay, sounds good. Talk about this one.
Sure. So this application has come through this committee before. It's only coming back because a piece of their application changed slightly, or rather, they gave us more information and they realized they needed a variance, so now they have a variance application. Which meets the trigger because the organic farm's across the street. It's on County Road 16, it's on the lake, it involves 3 separate parcels all next to each other. There's 2 homes being torn down and rebuilt and a garage being torn down and rebuilt. The variance they're asking for is that the garage be larger than what is allowed. So I mean, it's already in use as a residential parcel, so that's not changing. There's another house on one of the parcels, but it's not being torn down. They're changing some of the road configuration for a neighboring parcel. Yeah, so you have seen it before, but again, yeah, the only reason it's coming back is because there's a new variance application for the garage. That wasn't part of their original application, the variance itself, the garage was, it just took them a long time to tell us how big it was.
They hadn't decided how many cars are going to.
That's right.
And the comments from the last one were,
I apologize that I didn't look that up.
I think that there's no impact because it's right on the lake. There was already a house there.
It's got it.
So we can just reuse the same one, I would assume.
it's different. We can grab another one. It's gonna be. I think 45, I think.
And there are many applications, which also doesn't, no,
Yeah.
it makes it kind of. From farther down on the lake than a lot of the ones that you see.
It's
I mean, it's
a lot of
faster
clicking. It
than
is,
before.
it is, I'm not complaining.
I'm gonna close this door.
This one. Says the Agricultural Advisory Committee recommends the town of Canandaigua Planning Board find the proposed project does not cause a loss of agricultural lands for the town of Canandaigua. Make the motion to keep the same.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Simple. So I do have. While we wait for Tim for a few more minutes, I do have a few notes from, I think, 2 meetings ago. I want to make sure that we've got the right information. We were talking about helping with a float for the 4th of July parade, but I think Dennis was here last time and said they don't want to do that. That was correct, right?
Yeah, what did he say they're doing instead?
Maybe
Like
just a,
featuring-
yeah, maybe just some tractors, like a couple tractors and then. Maybe maybe just pulling maybe a wagon with some stuff on it, but not really a float. So that's pretty easily doable. We can help with that. And have you heard, so I was contacted by somebody from Farm Bureau the other day. Telling me that Canandaigua is having a meeting here at the town hall on the 28th of this month with Congresswoman Claudia Tenney on no-till farming. And we hadn't heard anything about it, so I was
Me
kind
neither.
of surprised when I heard that. She said that Jared Simpson had scheduled it and I hadn't heard. I just saw him recently too, and I hadn't heard anything about it.
The 28th of March.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was sent out to a few different farmers asking if we wanted to attend, and I thought, well, I thought we would have known about it, but
That's a Thursday.
it's a Thursday, okay.
I will find out. more.
Yeah, I haven't asked any further about it. I didn't contact Jared about it or anything, but I was surprised to hear about it.
Sometimes outside organizations and individuals will use our town hall for their own meetings. It's possible that maybe it was like that, like they reached out, can we use this? And he said, yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm betting
I feel like if
that,
we planned it, I would have heard about it.
well, that's what I thought. And I asked this person that I knew and she said that likely the Congresswoman's office was working faster than the information got around here or something.
Maybe, I'll find out, and whatever I find out. I'll
I
share
think
with
it's
you.
about equip funding relating to like no-till farming.
Mm.
So, but that's coming up fairly soon, so I would have thought like for, even if another organization did it, I usually see like. All kinds of advertising, any kind of ag event, I usually see something about it and I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything, so.
Typically when it's like an educational event or a nonprofit doing something like that that could have value to residents. We tell whoever's running it, hey, if you've got some graphics, we'd be happy to share for you, stick it in the newsletter, I mean. So, yeah.
So, I don't know,
I don't
I
know.
just thought I'd ask.
First I've heard of it,
Why
but
didn't you
yeah,
call her office and ask her?
Well, I could do that too.
but I can find out if the town is. wanting it too.
Yeah.
Other than if we're playing any role other than.
Yeah, let me see if I,
Space. Have you heard anything? I don't know.
She has an email address. You can use that. They're pretty responsive.
let's see, yeah, so the email came from. The director of her office, saying that they were approached by Jared Simpson. On asking Claudia Tenney to sit down with farmers in the area, so. I thought, okay, I don't know. So, I'm just asking.
That'll definitely be good to know.
Especially if it's potential funding for people.
Yeah, cause that's what that grant funds all types of environmental stuff. So, well, I guess we'll find out.
If there's someone who wants to do it.
I'll reach out and ask a little more about it.
They have funding and equip, like
Yep.
it sounds.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. It's environmental qualities. I don't remember what it actually stands.
State money?
Yeah,
Federal money?
I think it's state. Often like manure storages, all kinds of stuff like that are funded by that. And I think
But it's specifically about no-till.
maybe that is federal. Well, yeah, she would be federal. Yeah, I think it is federal funding.
But who else was invited? Was somebody from the state invited? I
Mm,
mean, I heard some.
yeah, I think you're right. That is federal funding. You locked out?
Yeah. Didn't realize they'd come through here. Oh,
Sure, right.
okay, thanks.
Okay,
Okay, I
so,
suppose.
well, I'll find out about that a little more and I'll let everybody know if there's anything to know. We had talked about some type of ag fair towards the fall, but we didn't want to do it with another event. I think is what we decided.
I think
I just-
it was attractive, the idea that others will call the people, but when people came and didn't care about what they were doing.
Well, part of that time was the location, but it sounds like they might try to do the movie nights in that spot from now on. That actually did work pretty well for that.
In the community center where the ice rink is?
Yeah, for the movie night, it worked well. And they were talking about just trying to do it there. From now on,
Yeah, and they don't have to deal with wind or rain.
in order to contain the kids a little
They
bit
can
better.
also do it earlier in the day.
Yep.
So I always had to wait for sundown in the middle of the summer, which is late for little kids.
Yep.
Very nice.
So. I know we always talk about starting sooner on things, so we do have to decide what we want to do and. Start working on it. I don't know, it's hard, it's just, I like the idea more of, that we talked about. Trying to have some educational things instead of like an ag fair, I guess that reaches the kids a little more, but something educational, like with soil and water, and I did talk to. Someone from Soil and Water, and they did offer to do a class or whatever you wanna call it. For the public and anybody that wanted to come, that we could kind of sponsor. And I think, Sarah, I talked to you about that maybe. Sometimes you do some of that stuff. It was Tucker from Soil and Water. I don't know if,
Yeah, I mean, we talked to them kind of a lot about other stuff, like they do septic inspections and stuff, so I mean, we talked to
they'll
them.
do like soil and water workshops and stuff that might attract more than, cause there's not a lot of farmers you're gonna attract the public and they can learn a little bit about agriculture at the same time.
So one of the best crowds that we had in the things that we have tried is when we made ice cream with the kids in the summer camp.
I know, they love
And
that.
that's, well, at least we had the
And
attention
Melanie
of a bunch
gave-
of kids.
Well, did her best to keep their attention for like 5 minutes about talking about why, happy cows or, it was good. They listened to her. They knew they were about to get to make ice cream, so they went.
And that was at Ononda camp, right?
That was,
Summer camp,
Summer
yeah.
camp.
and now the Y is doing its camps in there, so there's a lot of kids in there if we get the right week. So if we wanted to do something like this, the problem for us is to pulling people in. So if we try to time it so that it's at the time that parents are picking up the kids, at least we have one location where there is a lot of people going and it's outdoors and in an environment conducive to what we're trying to talk about, especially with the soils. Because they have the creek right in there, they can explain a little bit more of what happens with the flow of
Or
fluids
if
into the lake.
the ice cream thing worked well, we'll just do that again.
We could try that one again, yeah.
How far ahead should we plan something like that with the camp?
You have to reach out to the Y. Because they run it. So it's not an in-house program anymore.
Okay,
Um,
so the Y is doing all of it now.
Could you explain that? So are they in charge of Ononda or,
no. It's still our park.
right,
The YMCA runs a summer camp at Ononda Park.
gotcha, okay.
The town doesn't run a summer camp at Ononda Park anymore. We basically pay the Y to do it now.
Okay,
All right, so the Y paid you for the use of the facility.
We used to pay the city to run the park for us.
Hmm.
It's the same amount now. They do provide us with some services.
The lifeguards.
Mhm. That's shared between the park or between the camp and non-camp time, so. There's some back and forth. But, yeah, no, it's not our program anymore.
okay,
We just
thank you.
have it at our.
Do we have any contact? I don't have any contact anymore, the Y is in East Rochester, just.
I think our kids they do Y camp sometimes, so I think I can find out who to, hold
Well,
up.
and like Lindsay upstairs, our park
Oh, yeah.
coordinator, she kind of is the main person that all the camp discussions funnel through, because she worked with the Y to develop it and everything, so we can probably ask her and she might say, oh, yes, talk to so-and-so, or, oh, yes, I'll handle it. I'm not sure what she'll say, but,
That's Lindsay Frary.
yep.
She's pretty helpful usually with that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, I think she would be totally in favor of doing something like that. And would know probably at least who to talk to with the why to plan it out.
I think that might be a good one with the kids. I don't know what I would try though, like trying to do some other program to attract the parents while they're picking the kids up, because they usually want to take their kids and just go home.
And there's not parking.
Yeah,
There's not enough parking for the parents, for all the parents to stay. Unless they all troop up to the uplands. Usually they're in and out.
so just a camp activity for the kids, and then we'd need to find some of us to help do it, and then I will talk to Soil and Water again to see if they have an idea of because they do some of those things around, and see if they have an idea of a topic that they think works well, or how they would want to do it.
What about the watershed district? I mean,
Well, yeah, Watershed or Soil and Water.
aren't they two different organizations?
Yeah,
The soil and water is a federal funded, the watershed is, at least the ones that came, they're more of a independent group.
Sure.
The soil and water state.
Yeah.
Pretty, yeah.
Right.
Soil and Water State.
State,
Pretty sure.
and NRCS would be federal, I think, yes.
Government.
Close, you're close.
Yeah,
With-
correct,
with-
government funded, it's a government agency, and the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Association is a nonprofit outreach and education, and then the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Council is quasi-governmental, meaning that it's made up of all supervisors in the towns surrounding the lake, and I
So who would be the best educator for kids that age?
think it depends on what your topic is. I mean, soil and water definitely has more ag focused educational materials, and they have educators who focus on that. They both look at water quality. I think the Watershed Association is gonna come at it from a different angle.
How old are the kids that are gonna be?
Summer camp, I think as young as 5 up to 12,
Okay,
somewhere in there.
I mean, how are you gonna hold the attention of a 5-year-old with?
Yeah,
you
that,
know, Conversation.
I can see your point with that. I remember at Fun on the Farm. It was neat having, the little kindergartners there, because it seemed like they're having a fun time. And it's probably something they remember, but however. The main target audience you want is like high schoolers. Cause that's at the point where they're becoming adults, or on the verge of becoming adults, and it's where they're developing their perspectives and opinions. That's where you really need to try and educate folks.
I agree with you.
the Watershed does have some pretty good stuff for kids, because I know they go into school too. They have like this table that shows all different like.
Think about that every time I think about them and doing educational.
And if it's the same lady that used to do it, she does a pretty good job. I can't think of her name right now, but she does a good job teaching kids. And it's pretty balanced with like showing it's not like negative towards agriculture or anything either.
That activity is mostly about how water moves across the
Yeah,
land, right?
it shows where runoff can come from. There's farms on there and stuff, but it shows how water moves, and
Just,
it's pretty interesting.
just for example, remember we had a big washout and right when planning had just occurred and all of the sediment ran down the creek and out into the lake, and which caused all of the algae blooms, that we've been having. Yeah, I mean, that is something that everybody in this area lives with. It's news. Who's the best educator for that type of information?
So you mean, so maybe trying to do two things at the summer camp? If the,
Again, our
ice
problem
cream
has been
first.
Yep.
gather the audience. Right, so I'm just thinking of places where we have the audience. That maybe we can, and yes, it is 5 minutes, we don't have more than 5 minutes to get their attention,
Especially the little ones.
but if. We at least have the audience.
Hmm.
The other thing that I can think of that will pull the audience. If they were talking about the tractor parade. They did one in Shortsville with the holiday tractor parade, and that pulled a fair amount of people. Now, those people are not in there waiting to be educated, they just want candy thrown at them. But if we do the right type of pamphlets or things that we can deliver as the tractors are going, at least we have a pool of people attracted to that agricultural sector.
Oh, like pass out something as,
Well, and it can be as integrated as putting a small tractor right in front or behind a large one, and then have a pamphlet that they're giving at the same time, talking about the different type of works that, the size and correlation with the work that they do. Or why do you need some three-wheelers instead of your single-wheelers, and what does that provide? And compactation in the ground, traction, less passes, less fuel, anything that. And just kind of describing a little bit of the difference in the tractors that are going, just to give a little bit of the breadth of differences that we have. I'm just thinking, again, I'm thinking of how to attract the public, and then what can we do for them?
Right.
We have short periods of attention, but we need to gather them.
what information do you want to share? Like if the parade's focusing on equipment and tractors, yeah, maybe it's, how farming has changed over the years, the equipment.
Like the history of agricultural equipment and other machinery.
It's more efficient, it's faster, it's, I mean, what information could you put on like a little printout that we could have made?
Well,
And I
It'd
think
be
that
interesting.
every single one of them should have in the back something about share the road.
yeah, there you go. That's a good point.
What,
I like it.
being behind a tractor for 2 miles is equivalent to be in 3 stoplights. Take the time, give them a break.
So
And those type of things should be in every pamphlet, but then bring something that is attractive.
how many tractors are we gonna have for the 4th of July parade?
Yeah, still figuring that out.
Okay.
So we're,
Not a lot, I don't think.
No,
Dennis
that's
wanted just a 2, 3.
Yeah,
maybe
the-
3
the-
max.
yep, you said it, just a handful of tractors is what we're looking for.
Does that go hand in hand with what you're trying?
We could, I mean, the 4th of July pulls people regardless, right, of how many tractors we have. So if we have the right pamphlets, we can distribute them there. We don't have to create our own parade. If we can coordinate with the Shortsville one and just talk with people, what tractor are you bringing? And last year, there was combines, there were old tractors, there were new tractors.
Hmm.
So this,
That's
do you mind sharing the information sharing what tractors you're gonna bring? And we create some pamphlets with information of what the tractor might be used, that they can hand as they are throwing candies. And we just increase the information with the share the road.
Yeah, safety awareness.
Do you know who put that together over there?
I heard from it from, Blackbrook,
Tucker.
sorry, yeah. He's the
Yeah,
one
that's what I was
that
thinking.
mentioned it to me, but I don't know who was putting it together.
Well, I can tell you one topic I'm quite passionate about is environmental stewardship. There's so many things that farmers can do that are actually environmentally friendly, and educating the consumer is very important, especially in this day and age when there's a lot of misinformation out there. You gotta research the facts and then present that information. So that's something I'm very much so passionate about, environmental stewardship, what farmers can do in the future to become better, as well as the history of agriculture and the great strides of improvement that we've already made over the years.
Is that related to, the no-till?
Yeah, no-till cover crops. That goes back to the watershed. If we want to talk about runoff, farmers oftentimes get blamed for runoff. It kind of goes back to educating people. There's so many practices that farmers can do, and many of us are doing, that reduce and even prevent runoff, like no-till, cover crops, tiling wet parts of fields. If you have a poor draining area, tile that's a big improvement. So like one point I really want to make to people is runoff in a lake is not only bad for the environment, it's also bad for the farmer. If my fertilizer is in the lake, that's not doing me any good in my field. That fertilizer is supposed to be in my field and growing my crop. If it's, if it's in the lake, it doesn't do me any good.
Sure.
So that's another point that I wish more consumers would understand, that I don't want runoff and pollution in the lake, and I'm trying to do everything I can to stop runoff.
Gotcha.
So that goes back to environmental stewardship. I don't want to see runoff.
I think reminding people with whatever facts and little tidbits you could put on something like a flyer or a little brochure card about what farming community is already doing, what you guys do on a daily basis. That's a vast improvement from what, was done 100 years ago or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people know or even think about that.
Now, the other one that I'm just again trying to think about, you're talking about the history, the difference, what we have improved. Do you remember when Ray put together that historic barn tour?
Yeah.
And they have done the historic houses. Why don't we just leave the historic and just offer something like that is a tour of different sites? Canandaigua agricultural sites. And
Like instead of, like historic homes, historic barns, historic farms, or.
Just
it
farm.
doesn't have to be
General.
historic, but agricultural sites, right? Because you can take
And
it
there's a
to
lot
a
of different
field.
ones, even just in the town.
Yeah, you don't have to get them into the farms every time, but even if you put them in a field and you just park a tractor in there when they're talking about just no-till, and you just have a no-till planter in there, and that's that stuff. And
It'd be really cool, like, here's like, someone who does no-till, here's an example of a farm locally that uses this. And like, if it's a tour of farms, like, you actually have an address and like visit during this time of year to see this, or, dairy, I mean, you guys probably come up with a pretty good list of examples, small scale farms who are growing, vegetables and stuff for the market all the way. I mean, yeah, you could do all kinds of fun stuff.
How did they do the barn tour? Was that all on like one day that, like there's a certain time you could go to different barns or?
I was out of town for the barn tour. I did the historic.
I was around.
And in the historic homes, it was one evening, and they suggested the routes, so they gave you a map suggesting the route, but the houses were open from, I don't know if it was 2 to 7,
Like open house.
and they were all decorated for
So-
Christmas, and you would just walk in the house, and they had a little information of why that house was historic, when it was built, how many conversions had it had, and those type of things, and you just tour the house and then just walk to the next one.
You could do that, but then you could keep the list and the locations that could be viewed year round,
Yeah, sure.
have a 1 day thing. You'd have to find people willing to be there at that time on that day, to give
Yeah.
a whatever, 5-10 minutes.
But that gives you the opportunity to talk about tiling on a field that is being drained.
Mhm.
It gives you the opportunity to do a lot of different practices.
Exactly. Yeah. And another thing, when we're talking about how the industry has improved over recent decades. I also want to make a point that, while the way we farm now and the way we're trying to farm tomorrow is is a lot better than how we used to farm. But I do want to still give credit to the farmers that came before me. Like, for example, 100 years ago, if they were doing a practice that we wouldn't consider good today, well, it wasn't necessarily any fault of their own back then. They didn't know everything about soil health that we know today, as well as technology of the day back then wasn't as advanced as we are today. Like, they didn't have as many chemical options, they didn't have as many herbicide options. Equipment was only so advanced, so like they used what they had and did the best job they could back then. It just took many decades of research and trial and error to figure out the best way to farm.
The story cannot be, they were bad, we are good.
Exactly.
That will always guide you. The
Yeah.
story is, we were as good as we knew how to be.
Yep.
And we have keep evolving, and we are not done. We just keep getting better and better.
It's like any industry.
go.
Medical technology, farming, everybody's improving with knowledge that they gain as they go. They always did the best they could, because otherwise wouldn't have been good business.
Exactly.
And a willingness to adapt and change as these technologies become available to be able to afford them. All of that, it's hard to change.
Mhm. Yep.
So,
Well, we got a pretty good list of stuff here right now. I think, why don't I start with, we can contact Lindsay to get her ideas on the summer camp, which is a ways off still, but it'd be good to start planning it. She might have some ideas of what would work.
Do you want me to do that or
Or-
you do that?
If you want to, you see her every day probably, right?
Most, I don't actually see her every day, believe it or not, but I do see her several times a week. Yes, I can. start
Do that, and then she can
conversation.
just get back to one of us. Then I can, so sometimes I've seen advertisements for, like, the town will do some kind of evening presentation or something, like a committee will host something, right? So that's what I was thinking for the soil and water or whatever, so is there, depending on what it is there decent attendance usually? Depending on,
Depends on how well we do at getting the word out.
I would also allow the Zoom option.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
nice
if it's
though,
held here at in this building, we can always do a Zoom option.
but it is nice when people actually show up if you're doing something. But
Yeah.
definitely Zoom option these days.
yeah, what do we have to lose? You know, honestly.
Well, yeah.
Except for our time.
Yeah, but if it's, yeah, if it's something like that, we wouldn't even need to put a lot of time into it ourselves. I mean, I would hope people would come if soil and water is doing something, but. The soil and water guy that we work with at the farm the most, he's offered to do some of this and already does do some of it, so I'll talk to him about ideas of topics, and he's pretty enthusiastic about that kind of stuff, so. Tucker Couts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you have
Yeah.
to be talking about Tucker.
Oh, yeah, and
Enthusiastic is the right word.
Enthusiastic.
Couts, Kautz.
Yeah.
He was the one that came to give a talk on soils here when we did a full day training day. It was for mostly planning and zoning and code, but we also had stuff like that too.
Would it be housed here?
I think we could use a room here, right?
Yeah.
In the courtroom.
Lot of seats.
Okay,
Will this be more attractive than using Outhouse Park, the pavilion in there? Just general public attendance.
I think your attendance is gonna change depending on what you're offering. Like when you say this, I'm thinking you're more likely to get farmers or people in farming than the general public. As per
It
presentation
depends on what the
bill.
depends on what it is, cause you could get. If we did it, I like the environmental aspect of it, and I think you would get people that are interested
yeah.
in the lake.
I have,
Advertise the right angle to get people's attention, so they don't think it's just like a class on soils for.
Yeah, no.
there we go. So basically, it's not, I'm assuming that since you're a certified inspector, you have to have continuing education credits on a periodic basis. If you can put on a presentation or develop a presentation that provides those credits, you might find more people showing up, and it's,
Yeah, I'll
recognized as-
talk to him and see
You
what
mean
he
like when
says.
we do soil health workshops?
Yeah.
They just take
But
money.
then if you advertise it as credits for that, then it does become
That
like a
is who
class.
you're gonna get.
And you will take away some of the general public that are not certified. And
Yeah, I think just
a
some type of presentation with. Some soil health, working agriculture into it somehow.
Okay.
I think that would be, I think people in Canandaigua would like that if it's the right person doing it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I went to a couple at like the Bristol Historical Society for glaciers. So like even that, talking about glaciers and everything, there are a lot of people there. So,
I think you'd probably get a varying range of age too in people. I mean, I think you do tend to get some. Older people at some of those that have time to go, but
The new YMCA has a community room that is outstanding, spectacular. And if you really are interested in senior citizens, they're there every day.
no, I wanna try to get everybody. I'm just thinking of who comes to some of this stuff. I mean, it's a lot easier if you don't have kids. But all we can do is try, and it's not gonna really cost anything to try it. Time. So I'll do that so we can. Maybe we can even do it before things get busy in the spring, because that might not take too long to set up, depending on
Mm.
what's going on.
I would think. Manure management's probably a big topic for you guys, Bob, you know, like trying to educate the consumer that. Like kind of goes, I know, kind of going back to the. Last point we were talking about, but back to, you know, runoff in the lake, you know, responsible fertilizer management, well. Manure management ties right into that, and. You know, educating the consumer that when you know, see somebody out spreading manure, that. The vast majority of farmers care about spreading that responsibly, you know, they don't want to see that in the lake.
Well, I'm curious about how all of that equipment works. You see this tractor with this great big, yeah, hose attached to it, and
Yeah,
what do you call that? You know, that goes deep into the drill.
well, if you have an injector,
Yeah, you got an injector, man, that would be interesting to.
Come on over when it's working, we'll show you.
I think I'll keep my distance, but it is interesting.
All right,
I can put things on Facebook and in the newsletter as you have the information.
yep, okay,
Even like I could put posters up or something if you want a paper as well.
You know, that's a good point. Like, I know there's different messages you want to share in different seasons of the year and with relation to farming. And not to volunteer Kim, but she does a great job with simple graphics. Like if you have a sentence or two, fact. She can
I don't
buy,
think that you can do too much, to say,
No.
spring is coming, tractors are out, share the road.
yeah,
And that should come probably every 2 weeks.
guys, give us the text and we'll create something and stick it out. And it doesn't have to be a part of any project or leading up to any, I mean, this is just anytime. So,
I'd be happy to do it.
Thank you.
A couple pictures of those accidents of people trying to pass tractors and they shouldn't.
yeah, I think those would be powerful.
Don't be the,
Don't.
don't be the back of the mule, slow down and share the road.
okay,
I,
well, good.
a couple of